Well, not yet. Let me explain. Over 1 million active Pokemon trading card game players. That's how many people play the Pokemon trading card game in Japan. And this December, 6,500 of them will be competing at the Aichi Champions League, the biggest Pokemon tournament ever. Well, 6,499 Japanese people, to be exact, because I managed to win the lottery. So, here's how it works. In Japan, tournaments like the Champions League aren't really open entry, first come, first serve, like they are in the Western world. Instead, players enter a lottery system, and only those who are randomly selected get the chance to register and play. That means even if you are one of the best players in the country, you're not guaranteed a spot, unless you're lucky. And sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, because, well, I managed to get selected.
Hooray!
So this December, I'm going to be flying down to Japan, and I'm going to be participating in the tournament, and I'll be vlogging the entire experience, basically. But before we do any flying, I first have to do some preparations. Like 1, find a deck, and 2, find a good deck. You see, I'm really good at playing really bad decks to big events. At the World Championships back in 2023, I played this pile. Boy, that sure is 60 cards. And that same year at EOIC, I played this deck. Damn, I have a hidden talent for deck building. Maybe I should just keep it hidden. However, I have been getting better at deck building, and that's been translating into better results, and also good YouTube videos. Okay, maybe like mediocre YouTube videos. Regardless, this time, things are a bit different. Whenever you prep for a tournament, you need to understand what the format looks like, and what kind of decks will thrive in such an environment. Japan is very different to the Western world when it comes to Pokemon, and the way tournaments are also played. In Japan, all tournaments are best of 1 with a 25-minute round timer. And unlike the Western world, where if you run out of time you can tie, in Japan, you lose, and so does your opponent. So tying is not exactly an option. That's why decks like Goldengo and Raging Bolt are very popular in Japan. They are consistent, fairly simple, and fast-playing decks, meaning you don't have to worry too much about a double game loss. This also means I have to build a deck in a way I'm not used to deck building. Not only that, but the actual card pool is different as well. You see, Japan is usually 1 to 2 sets ahead of the rest of the world, as they like to release sets almost every single month. Whereas outside of Japan, sets are usually released quarterly, so every 3 months or so. And you guessed it, a new set is coming out right before this tournament, on the 28th of November. This being the Mega Dream set. Luckily for me, this is a special set, meaning it's filled with a lot of reprints rather than actual new cards. That doesn't mean there are no new cards though, but we'll get to that later. So, as for the actual deck I want to play, I have a few criteria the deck must fit. 1, I want a consistent deck. 2, I want a deck that is quick or one that I'm very comfortable with playing, meaning I won't take a lot of time thinking. 3, I want a deck that has a good matchup into aggro decks, such as Goldengo, Raging Bolt, and Ceruledge, as these are all very common decks in Japan. So, let's get to thinking. So, the first obstacle is consistency, and this ties in with popular decks in Japan. You see, since the format is best of 1, bricking just isn't an option. That's why people prefer decks that can consistently set up, and aggro decks fit very well with consistency. Usually, these decks are basic or stage 1 decks, meaning there's not too many moving parts, making the deck quite easy to set up. These decks are also very simple, being able to replicate their game plan most games. So, does this mean I have to play an aggro deck? They do fit in with the first and second criteria, being consistent and simple, but the problem is the third criteria, having a good aggro matchup. I don't want to be playing a deck that is more of a coin flip going into these matchups. Due to these decks being so simple, there's just not too much room to outplay your opponent in a mirror match. Not only that, they just don't fit my playstyle. Remember how I said I want a simple deck or a deck I'm comfortable on? Well, that's where this guy comes in. No, not you. Thanks for giving me a YouTube career, but you're staying in the binder. My new favorite deck. I've been playing Dragapult and basically only Dragapult this season. This means I am very comfortable on the deck. Sure, it might be a stage 2 deck, but unlike other stage 2 decks that I'm not on talking terms with, my favorite horrible parent has a built-in draw engine, Dracloak. This is the pre-evolution of Dragapult, meaning on your way to the big guy, you will have access to this amazing card. And unlike other stage 2 decks needing so many various attackers, Dragapult has an incredibly powerful attack, which means you don't need to commit a lot of deck space to other attackers. This means we can play more consistency cards, like Lily's Determination, Iono, and heavy amounts of Ball Surge, making sure we have access to whatever Pokemon we need whenever we need it.
Alright, this is what they got here. They got some stuff. For all the, where is it at? For all the Gardevoir players, look at that, bro. I don't know what's happening. They don't have Mega stuff, unfortunately. I was kind of hoping they would have Mega stuff, but no Mega stuff. So, we will not be buying some stuff. I've been thinking about that, Zorua. I mainly because of the whole Zoroark thing. But anyway, yeah, gamers be gaming. Also, they also got the dogs, dude. Remember when I used to play that thing? Remember when that thing used to be in my deck? Well, get your out of here, fool. Okay, now we look for Zoroarks. Need Zoroarks for the Polter deck. However, I don't know where black and white is, to be honest. So, yiker.
So you pay around the first. You are used to that, right? Then I'll just go. Because if I want to body use that, I am not. No. You would take it. You would.
So, after some testing, we decided that Dragapult EX was indeed the deck that I'm going to play. However, we kind of have to take a look at the list. So, as all good Dragapult lists start, we have our 4 Dreepy as the basics. We've got our 4 Dracloaks. Obviously, Dracloak is kind of like the lifeblood of the deck. It lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one into your hand, and put one at the bottom of the deck. It lets you, like, kind of stack your deck, in a way, if you think about it. Then we've got 2 of the big guys, right? Dude, by the way, look at this artwork. Isn't he clean? Clean as hell. Look at that guy. Anyway, that is our Dragapult line. Then we've got a 2-1-1 bomb line. So the bombs are kind of interesting. So this guy over here, he is a stage 1. He evolves from the little guy over here. And when he evolves, you can use his ability, and it does 50 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, which is kind of broken. But your opponent does take a prize card. So it isn't with, you know, for free. But this does tie in with another really good card, which I'll show you momentarily. And then we've got one of the bigger guys, which is a stage 2. Remember how we said we didn't like stage 2s? Well, we do like stage 2s. In fact, we love stage 2s. So he evolves from the middle guy, and he has the exact same ability, the only difference is it does 13 damage. Then for other Pokemon, we got 2 Badoos. These guys have a cool little attack for free. You can use it for free, you know. All good things are free. It does 10 damage, and then your opponent can't play items. Then we got 1 Monkidori. It's pretty good just to move damage back and forth, you know, probably one of the best cards in the game right now, actually. Not even just in the deck. Just probably one of the best cards in the game. Then we've got Hawlucha. Hawlucha does 10 damage when you bench it. So if I put it down on the bench, it does 10 damage to 2 of my opponent's bench Pokemon, which is really good because... Let's take a look at Dragapult's attack, right? It does 200 damage plus 6 damage counters. So let's say our opponent has a benched Dreepy, right? We can take a knockout for 200 damage in the active, and then we can use that 6 damage counters and just knock out a benched Dreepy, right? When you pair it with a Hawlucha, because that'll do like 10, and then you can knock out the Dreepy. Then we've got Pheasantipity, which when one of our Pokemon dies on the previous turn, we can kind of just use the ability and draw 3 cards. Pretty broken card. Basically, every single deck in the game right now is running one. Then we've got the Big Bear, you know, he does 240 damage for 5 energy, which might sound crazy, but he doesn't have an ability, he does have an ability, sorry, which lets him attack for 1 less energy for each prize card your opponent has taken. So if your opponent's taken 4 prize cards, he can attack for 1 energy, and if they've taken 5 prize cards, he can attack for 3. So 240 damage, it's a really good closer against a lot of decks when paired with something like the Dusclops and Dusknoir. Then we've got our Latinas. Right, Latinas is great. It gives all our basic Pokemon free retreat. So basically, we'll bench this guy. Let's say we have a Dreepy inactive to begin the game with, but we want to use Badoo. So if we bench Latias, we can free retreat the Dreepy into the Badoo, attach energy to the Dreepy, so I don't have to waste an energy attachment per turn, because that's something that this deck kind of struggles with, energy, and then we can use Badoo on that same turn. And then the last Pokemon is the new Pokemon, Moltres. So Moltres has a pretty cool attack. Fighting Wings for 1 energy, it does 20 damage, but if you're attacking an EX, it does 90 more damage, so pretty damn good. It can do 200. You know, in fact, run the short that explains this card. Moltres can swing for up to 110 damage if it's attacking into an EX, but if you're attacking for weakness, that number gets bumped to 220, which is a great number, being able to one-shot Pokemon like Genesect and Tealmask Ogerpon. This really helps your Goldengo and Raging Bolt matchups, but if you don't think that's enough, you can slap on a Brave Bangle and now you're swinging for 280 damage with weakness, meaning you can take out a Goldengo in a single shot. Now you can stack your board with single prizes such as your cloaks to draw your cards, while one-shotting your opponent's Goldengo with your one prizer being Moltres. But not only does Moltres dish out good damage, it also has the perfect amount of HP. You see, Goldengo has a one prize attacker of their own, that being Solrock. But Solrock's damage output is capped at 110, and that's only when paired with an energy drink and some gym wear, meaning if they want to take you out, they need to use their Fire Weak Goldengo. Alright, now that you understand what Moltres does, let's get to the supporters, alright? We were talking about these earlier. We've got 4 Lose Determination, which is a broken card. Shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 6, or draw 8 if you have 6 prize cards remaining. So, really good card. Then we've got 4 Iono, which is a great disruption card. You shuffle your hand into the bottom of your deck, and then you draw cards equal to your prize cards. And Dragapult is very good at controlling prize cards. So yeah, very disruptive card, very good card. We've got 2 Boss's Orders, which just switches out one of your opponent's active Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon. It's really good for just chasing down stuff. Then we've got Dawn, which can search our deck for a basic Pokemon, a Stage 1 Pokemon, and a Stage 2 Pokemon. And we have all of those Pokemon in the deck, so Dawn is a pretty good card. Then we've got Hilda, which is great because it can search out for any evolution Pokemon and also any of our energy cards, and we'll get to the energy cards shortly. And that is all the supporters. As for the items and the bowl search, we've got the 4 Buddy Puffins. It searches out for any Pokemon, any basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less, and puts it on the bench, which is really good to get out all our Dreepies and stuff. We've got 4 Ultra Balls, which can discard 2 cards from our hand and then search it for any Pokemon, which is, good to get, Dracloaks and Dragapults and that kind of stuff. We've got 2 Nest Balls. Nest Balls are great to get out any basic Pokemon and put it on your bench, which is pretty good because, we need basic Pokemon and we like consistency. Then we've got 3 Night Stretches. 3 Night Stretches, they can just grab a basic energy or any Pokemon from your discard pile and put it into your hands. If you use Ultra Ball to discard energy or a Pokemon, you can use these to get it back later. Or if one of your Pokemon dies, then you can just get it back. Then we've got 3 Counter Catcher. So Counter Catcher is very similar to Boss's Orders, except for the fact that it is an item, and you can only use it when you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent. And that's where, it ties in with these guys. So remember when I said whenever you use one of these abilities, your opponent takes a prize card? So if they have more, if we have more prize cards remaining than our opponent, then we can just use these for free, right? It's literally an item Boss's Orders, which is really nice because it's great for Dragapult. You love to gust. So it ties in really well. These guys also tie in really well with the Iono, because if we use them, our opponent has less prize cards, means they get less cards off the Iono, and also means we can get whatever we want into the active spot, right? So yeah, that is all our items. I lied. We still have 1 Rare Candy. Then we've got 2 Jamming Towers as our stadiums. You'll notice our deck doesn't play any tool cards, and tool cards are really strong against us as well. For example, Gardevoir, when they use a Bravery Charm, it puts their HP up, and we don't like that, so Jamming Tower turns that off. Then for energies, we've got 3 Luminous Energy, which counts as any single type of energy when you attach to a Pokemon. However, you can only have 1 special energy attached, so you can't really use 2 of these at the same time on a Dragapult. That is why we play other basic energies. So we've got 2 Fire because of the Moltres. I smacked my camera again. And 1 Psychic for the other guys as well. So obviously we've got, Dragapult count, it needs Fire and Psychic, so use those. And you'll be thinking, well, where's our pink card? Where's our E-Spec? Bam! There it is. Neo Upper Energy. Hell yeah. So Neo Upper Energy obviously is an A-Spec, meaning you can only play 1 A-Spec in your deck. And A-Specs are just really strong cards. There's a good reason you can only play 1 in your deck. And this ties in with our Hilda. Remember when I said you can search your deck for any energy card and evolution? So you can grab any evolution and also your Neo Upper Energy. Kind of considering getting rid of these guys, right? So these are some of the cards that just don't really give me as much value as I would want. And the tournament is all best of 1. Meaning I want consistency, right? And Rare Candy is fine. However, playing only 1 means you just won't get use out of it sometimes. Night Stretcher is fine. However, I've played a lot of these decks with only 2 Night Stretcher, and it has been fine, so it's another card on the chopping block. And then we've got a Duskull and a Dusk Noir. So these cards are good. However, there is a card called Psyduck, and Psyduck prevents us from using these cards. So there is a good chance, if our opponent puts a Psyduck down, that all of these cards become useless, right? And that's just 4 dead spots that we just, can't use, which kind of sucks. It makes us play a 56 card deck in that matchup. So we would rather have more consistency cards rather than these cards, right? However, that's not to say these cards still aren't good, right? If anything, I would probably keep a 1-1 line, and I would just cut the stage 2 and one of the basics, so that we still have the option to go for some nice plays with this guy. But now it opens up 2 slots for other cards, more consistency cards, or more techs, like for example the Moltres, right? Moltres is really strong against, Goldengo and also Raging Bolt. And it might open up another slot for that, so we can kind of open that up. And this might open up a slot for a Brave Bangle, means Goldengo gets even easier. And then we still have 2 more slots to play around with, right? And these are just 2 consistency slots. Maybe we can put a Nest Ball in, right? S-Ball is to get any basic Pokemon, and then we have one more slot which we can probably put maybe a third boss in. And then we have lots of boss, lots of counter catches, lots of S-Balls, and a good out against the most popular deck in Japan. So all that's left now is to practice and, well, go to the event. So stay tuned for part 2. See you soon.